When you think about ads, do you think the best way to drive traffic for a venue?
Yes. That is, in my opinion, the best way to drive traffic, simply because you're getting in front of these newly engaged couples way before anybody else. So with directories, they're great for brand awareness, as I said. A lot of the time, the couple have already made the decision and they're already well underway to hunting for their venue. So they've started the search. Whereas when we're running ads, we're targeting at the stage before that, at the stage where they've just got engaged and they're scrolling at 2 a.m. on Facebook like everybody does, and they've come across an ad, they've clicked on it, downloaded a brochure, and now they're in some sort of funnel.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
What is up, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX, and on today's show, we are going to be talking to someone who you've probably seen his ads on Facebook, especially if you're a venue owner or operator. He has been doing an incredible job of getting the word out there about his marketing company, specifically for wedding venues, and I'm excited to dive into his story today. Please welcome to the show, Kai McInnes. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thanks, man. Super excited to be on the show.
So
let's get straight into this.
Yeah. So Kai, I'm curious, let's just jump right into your origin story, because I think people may have seen your face on ads, talking about how you got into this business. But if people don't know you, if people haven't seen any of those ads, I think you have a very cool kind of engaging style in there. But if they haven't seen anything like that, could you give us a little bit of a background on how you got into first the venue industry and then specifically into marketing?
For sure. So it all started about 3 or 4 years ago now, when I was working closely with my family's venue. As I started to come up the ranks, I've obviously worked in every single position that you could imagine, from working behind the bar to waiting, to then marketing. And it was 3 years ago that we took on board a marketing agency, who promised us the world and essentially, charged us a ridiculous retainer to do some super basic, simple tasks each month. And that was cool. It worked out for a few months. And for me, it was part of my personal journey because it helped me be where I am now. But not only that, it helped other venues to scale and to realize the game in a transparent way. So it was, as I say, 3 years ago, we took on board this marketing agency, and I learned a lot from them. In terms of how to run ads, how to properly market your venue. The one thing that I noticed out of a few things, but the main thing was that these guys weren't venue specific. And when I say that, I mean to say there are a bunch of agencies out there who you can choose to work with. I'm sure a lot of them would do an awesome job, but there are very few who only work in the venue industry. And with that being said, there's even fewer of the venue agencies who can actually focus on coming from a background of actually owning their own venue. So my family have a venue. We scaled it from 20 weddings to now 200 weddings a year. And that was with incredible innovation from my parents, a lot of money spent, a lot of time renovating, but also with real, genuine sales funnels, not using the likes of, in the UK, Hitched and Bridebook, which again can be awesome for brand awareness, but for driving direct sales and truly growing your venue, that's not the way to do it. Or at least that's not the way I believe to do it. So we scaled the family venue, and then I got to a position where I was like, look, these agencies are charging an extortionate amount of money to do some, what I deemed to be pretty simple tasks. And so I wanted to go about a mission that accomplished two things. The first of which being transparency. I wanted to build something that venue owners can have full transparency from client to agency, so that at all times they can see results, they can see what's performing, what's not performing. They wouldn't even have to contact us because we built out some pretty awesome systems where everything's straight there in their face. And so it's super clear. And secondly, something that venues can really relate to, and they can almost come to us as venue experts to be their growth partner. So I don't like to refer to us as a marketing agency. We are a lot more than that. We work with venues very closely to help grow, to help drive, to look at their packages, to see what has been working, hasn't been working already, rather than just saying, hey, look, guys, let's run some ads for you guys. We also do restaurants, hotels, gyms, bars, but I'm sure it'll work for you. So that's where we are now. Over the past 2 years, we've been building the agency, and we are now at a point that, we scaled immensely. We've worked with some super awesome venues, and it's been a really cool journey.
I'm curious, obviously with the accent, you're from the UK. Where specifically is your family venue from?
So we're down in Kent, which is just below London.
Okay. In your experience now working with some venues in the US and then obviously many venues in the UK, is the UK your kind of main hub of venues that you work with?
For sure. And the reason being is there's a lot of venues in the UK to tackle to start with. We try not to work with venues in the same county. So if it is possible, we'll try and keep like a 50-mile radius. So there is going to come a point where we start reaching out to the likes of Europe to start off with, because that's obviously our closest to home. And the US, I know you guys already have some growth partner agencies out there as well. So it would be cool to see what they're doing over there as well.
I'm curious, with your current exposure to the UK venues, and then I know with a couple of venues that you've talked to or had conversations with or worked with in the United States, do you feel like there's any really big significant differences between the wedding industry in the UK versus the wedding industry in the US?
Yeah, I mean, the foundations are all the same, right? Everybody's getting married every single year, and that's not slowing down. I think that the biggest thing that I've seen since having conversations with some venue owners in the US is that spends can typically be a lot more in the States. So people would usually go in more all out, rather than in the UK. I don't know about you guys over in the States, but twilight weddings and intimate weddings are now the next big thing. And so people are looking for the most affordable option.
Sorry to interrupt. Twilight, like the movie.
It's a similar kind of concept. So when we say twilight weddings, are you familiar?
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with the movie, but when you say twilight weddings, could you unpack that?
Yeah, for sure. So a twilight wedding in the UK has grown immensely over the past 2 to 3 years. It's essentially a budget-friendly option to hosting a wedding, and a lot of venues will do this during weekdays only because it's usually dates that they're not going to fill anyway. So it'll be kind of Monday to Thursday dates that they'd offer, and it'll be a later ceremony. So typically a traditional wedding would be 2 p.m. ceremony in the UK, and a twilight wedding would be 5 p.m. So they have the venue for a little bit, less amount of time. And then what would generally happen, although not in every single case, they would swap out the traditional wedding breakfast, sit down 3-course meal for a buffet style food. So it's a little bit less formal. It is more just kind of getting married, saying the I do's, and then going straight into the evening party.
That is so interesting. It's occurred to me as you're saying this, we need to have a segment on the show that just talks all about the different styles of weddings. Like obviously South Asian weddings are a huge thing here in the US, as well as all over the world, obviously. But this twilight wedding, I conceptually, I understand what it is, but I've never heard of it referred to in that way. That's very interesting.
For sure. I think that probably answers your question as well. The biggest difference here is that we're kind of innovating in different ways. I feel as if in the States, people are more willing to go all out for their weddings, that they kind of spend a bunch of money. Whereas in the UK, people can be a little bit more reserved and thinking, okay, costs are rising all over the world. How can we save on our wedding? And so people are looking for still the beautiful venue, but which cheaper option could they potentially vote for?
Yeah. I mean, and I definitely think that's here in the US as well, with I think some uncertainties that people had about the economy and things like that. People were really looking to cut. And it seems like there will always be a place for a budget wedding, always place for an affordable wedding. And then there's always going to be the luxury market.
Yes.
And maybe the middle kind of moves towards those extremes.
For sure.
So let me ask you then, as you started it in a venue, doing, like you said, all the things, the dishwashing, the kind of like all the hospitality, serving, setting up the venue, like everything behind the bar, to now being on the marketing side, which is more, it's lead gen, it's growth partnership, just like you said. Are there things that you're noticing that maybe you feel like give you an advantage because you did, have the experience working at a venue that you can now kind of bring to your marketing services for venues?
Absolutely. I think, as I say, that's kind of the biggest thing that separates us, is that I have that experience. And a lot of the time we're obviously trying to scale as a growth partner business. But the venue owners want to speak to me. They don't really want to speak to the team because they know that I've got the direct venue experience and I've worked in a very successful venue now. And ultimately that is my biggest pride and joy, is the family passion. So yes, working every single job in hospitality, as we all know, can be very tough. But I feel like it was a huge stepping stone to being the person that I am today. I think having that advantage specifically helps with when venue owners are struggling to actually put on a good show, because it's all well and good being able to sell the weddings, but then what comes to the big day when you actually have to think about the logistics and the staffing, and how you're going to run the event itself. And so what we tend to say is there's a few different options with the agency. The high ticket package, obviously, is where I'm coming on board as a personal consultant. So we're looking at them and we're really talking about their packages, about their staffing and how it's working internally. And from the management perspective, I'm then speaking to the owners directly, who are saying, we need to cut costs. Eventually in wintertime in the UK, everything slows down massively. And so how do we start to fill them dates? Well, I know from my family venue experience that we start to put on Christmas events and throw mixed Christmas parties, which can generate a lot of revenue, and utilizing your venue for other things other than just weddings.
So I definitely see you being, like you said, a growth partner versus just a marketing agency. That definitely makes a lot of sense. When you think about ads, do you think the best way to drive traffic for a venue?
Yes, that is, in my opinion and proven opinion, the best way to drive traffic. Simply because you're getting in front of these newly engaged couples way before anybody else. So with directories, they're great for brand awareness, as I said. A lot of the time, the couple have already made the decision and they're already well underway to hunting for their venue. So they've started the search. Whereas when we're running ads, we're targeting at the stage before that, at the stage where they've just got engaged and they're scrolling at 2 a.m. on Facebook, like everybody does. And they've come across an ad, they've clicked on it, downloaded a brochure, and now they're in some sort of funnel. So we're able to reach out to these venues before they've even started the proper hunt. But not only that, you also have the advantage of retargeting. So if they have already started their search and they visited your website or already kind of engaged with you in some sort of way, then ads can be so valuable to offer something, to put something again in front of their faces. And a reminder that venue owners, newly engaged couples are constantly searching for their perfect venue. They never just inquire to one venue. And so you need to stand out and you need to constantly be reminding that couple why you are the best. And you can't just do that with just having a storefront and saying, hey, come to us, we are the best. You need to almost go out and get them.
Totally. And that's, I think, kind of an irony here, because, we did connect because I saw some of your ads, some of the meta ads that showed up on Instagram, and it was like, okay, I want to talk to this guy and I'm curious to see what he has to offer venue owners. And so, yeah, that definitely makes sense. I'm curious when it comes to ads. You mentioned Facebook. Do you feel like the demographic is now trending younger? So maybe Facebook ads in the future are not going to be as relevant?
I think when we're talking about Meta as a whole, no, because I think Meta are constantly innovating. And I think that's kind of an advantage, because you have Facebook, which in my opinion are for the older demographic. And then you have Instagram, which are for the younger demographic. And when you run ads, you don't typically split between Facebook or Instagram. You kind of just run to Meta and let Meta figure out what's working best. And so I think that we're at the advantage there with Meta ads specifically, because you always have the best of both worlds. So if you are targeting the older demographic, even if you're running ads for anniversary parties, for example, then you're going to be in both boats. So you're going to be able to target the younger audience and the older audience as well at both times.
Do you, when you're looking at kind of marketing as a whole, are you offering Google Ads services, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest? I know you can do, there's so many different paid advertising avenues. Do you look at other ones other than Meta?
No. So we focus, do one thing and do it good, right? It is the same. We focus on meta ads because this is what we found to work. And for me, Google Ads is almost the same as directories in the sense of you're capturing newly engaged couples at that later stage. So they've already Googled, they're already looking for wedding venues in Kent, for example. And so your venue's then going to pop up at the top as a sponsored post, which is awesome. And I do believe there's value there. But as an agency, we focus on doing one thing, which is meta ads. And then we build the lead generation funnels around that. So I think touching on that, one of the biggest things that venues fail to do is run proper ad campaigns. And when I say that, the amount of times I hear week in, week out is, oh, we tried ads and it doesn't really work. And that really gets to me because I then turn around and say, what do you mean you've tried ads? Like when you say you've tried them, have you boosted the post and not seen a return on investment? Did you track how many people were seeing that ad? How many people were clicking on the ad? How many people were downloading a brochure? How many people were going on to book a viewing? And therefore, what's your cost per viewing and cost per booking? And then did you do any optimizing on the back end? And the answer is typically no, which I understand coming from a venue background because venue owners just don't have the time to do that. And that's really another huge reason why I started the agency, because I saw firsthand my parents would never had the time to be able to implement the systems that we have been able to implement to venues now.
Hey there friends, Jonathan here, and I wanted to share about Common Sense Events Management Services. Common Sense Events is my company. We professionally manage and operate venues all across the United States, and we would love to have the opportunity to chat about your venue if management would be the right solution for you. This is a great opportunity for people who are looking to maybe get out of the industry, or maybe they want to keep their property, but they don't want to sell it, but they still want to make money from it. Our team comes in and we do everything from the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire a local team. We take care of the taxes. We pay them. We keep them accountable. We take care of all the management. We do all the sales process. We do all the operations, everything from setting up to tearing down tables and chairs, and everything that it takes to run an incredible wedding. The best part about this all, it is not super expensive. We actually have a lot of these agreements set up as management contracts where there's a revenue share. And so it is really a awesome and frequently affordable way to work with an outsourced management company so that your venue stays under your brand name, but you have a custom venue management solution for you so you don't have to be working 80 hours a week. If this sounds appealing to you, please send us a message using the link in the description of this video or podcast. You can also send us an email at venues@cseventservices.com. We would absolutely love to hear from you and see if there's a way that we could partner with you and serve you.
Yeah, absolutely. When you do the operations, and with our company, Common Sense Events, it's like, I know that too. You're hiring people, you have to fire people sometimes, you have like all of this operational stuff to do, plus the execution of all the events. If you're successful, the more successful you are, the less time that you have. You kind of switch the, employee responsibilities for management responsibilities, but there are just as many, if not more there. So yeah, it totally makes sense. You mentioned a couple of things in the process. You said, did you, how many people downloaded, the lead gen, the offering or whatever that you had, the pricing brochure, how many people, like you mentioned a bunch of conversion metrics. Could you, for everyone, go through what conversion metrics you would be tracking to understand whether you are in fact truly successful?
Sure. I think the first and most obvious is your cost per lead. And when I say that, I'm talking about what we deem to be a lead is somebody who downloads a brochure. So we typically open up the funnel much higher up than most venues, or than a lot of venues. And what I mean by that is venues would typically class a lead as an inquiry or a view-in. We open it up much higher and we look at this like a numbers game. So the more people who are going to be downloading your brochure, they're probably not ready to make an inquiry or book a viewing yet. But then you're basically giving them something which, in our opinion, is going to be the most valuable thing that you ever do. And so your brochure needs to be as good as it can possibly be. You should be spending a few $1,000s every year on updating the brochure and keeping it up to scratch, because that's essentially your storefront. That's what most couples are going to be seeing from the offset. And so we get people to download the brochure. We then track in what's your cost per lead, what's your cost per brochure download. The next stage is cost per inquiry or cost per viewing. So we can go either way. We kind of track them at the same, because different venues have different ways of working at that point. And so from cost per download to cost per viewing / inquiry, obviously you get a lot of numbers drop off there, but you should still be looking at a fairly good conversion rate at that point if your brochure is as good as it can be. and your follow-ups and lead generation systems after they've downloaded the brochure is as good as they can be as well. And then from there, it's obviously the obvious cost per booking. And so when you're running ads, a lot of people will be looking at cost per impression or cost per click. To me, yeah, is valuable, and cost per click, certainly you can see what's not performing in terms of your landing page. So if people are clicking on the ad, but then not downloading a brochure, then something's off with your landing page because it's not enticing enough for them to take the next step. And same for cost per download to cost per viewing. If there's a huge spike there, then it means that your follow-ups are not enticing enough because something's going wrong. You're losing too many people at that stage, or the brochure itself is not good enough.
Absolutely. Is there, I guess my question is, when you're thinking about the ads and how high up in the funnel that you go and kind of these like intent actions, right? Because maybe someone's not even engaged yet, but they think they're going to get engaged soon, right? They've hinted, okay, I'm probably going to get the question popped on New Year's or, Valentine's Day or whatever the common dates are there. How do you stay top of mind for these couples that may just be kind of looky-loos right now and gathering information about what it's going to actually take once they do get engaged?
Yeah, good question. I think this comes back down to how we run the campaigns. So running real, genuine Facebook ad campaigns that convert in comparison to boosting posts. Because when you're boosting posts, you're not collecting email addresses, you're not collecting any data. And so that makes retargeting super hard. You almost can't. Whereas if, like you say, you've got these couples who are not even engaged yet, but they're downloading your brochure, you've then got your email address, and it's all about branding at that point. In marketing, there's this thing about touch points and making a certain number of touch points before they then decide to make a decision to book a viewing or make an inquiry. And so if this couple downloads a brochure, they've then seen your logo and your branding, and then you retarget with another ad, which has your logo and your branding. And then you're sending a monthly newsletter with your logo and your branding. Subconsciously, they're building up this branding image that they're getting to know you guys on a more personal level, and you're constantly staying top of mind. So when it does come to them getting the question popped, typically that woman who has just got engaged is super excited and goes online. You're at the forefront of their mind, and you're going to be the first people that they go to go on their website.
It's so funny that you say that, because there's a venue that I think one day I inquired. I was shopping them, I think, just see. It wasn't associated with any of the venues that we currently manage. I think I was looking. I want to shout them out, actually. Bella Casa wedding venue. I think they're in Florida. I literally have never talked to these guys before in my life. But to this day, I must have inquired like 2 years ago. They continue to send me all of their marketing stuff. And you can tell they do an intentional job. I'm not getting married at their facility, but I am very impressed with the level of branding that they have created, because now, like, when I think about a good job with newsletter marketing, and I'm mentioning it here on this episode, I'm thinking of these guys, right? And I don't know that that's going to help them drive more business in my case specifically, but to your point, it does make a big difference. So this leads me to my next question. How can a venue owner really do a good job with that post inquiry engagement to generate that brand versus just kind of throwing up a bunch of maybe AI generated stuff? How do we really do a good job kind of building the brand and creating more of the awareness around our company?
The biggest answer to that question is personality. And especially in today's age, putting personality behind a brand is what's going to take your venue from a couple of bookings every year to a lot more, depending on the case. And what I mean by that is storytelling as well. So if you can, instead of just having a faceless venue, right, you're posting beautiful pictures and it looks nice, you also need to build a lot of trust with these couples, because they're spending a lot of money with you. They're trusting you with the biggest day of their life. So being able to understand who the team are behind that, who the directors are, who owns the venue, why did they start the venue, what's their passion, driving that into the forefront of the marketing is what's really going to separate a lot of venues to their competitors. And I think the second thing on that note would be branded newsletters every single month consistently. And so your mailing list can start to expect that email every month, even if they don't consciously know that, they know that it's coming. Having more subscribers than unsubscribers. so that your mailing list is consistently growing. And also understanding that that's never going to drive direct business. You're never going to send a newsletter and get somebody book a viewing straight away from the first one. It's just a matter of brand awareness. And as I say, touch points, keeping your venue at the forefront of these guys' minds. A lot of call to actions, making sure that people know what to do when you're sending these newsletters, instead of just sending something, a little bit of information and having a read more button that takes you to their website where then they can click all sorts of different buttons and end up completely lost. Having something conversion focused with good call to actions.
I love that. You mentioned a faceless venue versus having more personality behind the venue. What if I'm listening to this right now as a venue owner or operator and I don't feel like I have a really sexy story or a very cool story, or maybe it's not the story that I feel like is going to be inspiring to a couple that's going to interest them to help them book? Should I still be sharing my face and my story and all of that? Or maybe for those folks, don't do that?
No, I would say still share it, because I think even if the story isn't sexy, it's authentic. And we're all just humans. And so we can't expect some glamorous story every single time we hear a venue owner speak. A lot of the time is going to be, I was looking for my daughter's wedding venue. I couldn't find any nice ones, so I started my own.
Yep.
And people can resonate with that. I think authenticity sells. So when I'm talking about not having a faceless venue, it doesn't need to be incredibly edited reels and paying a designer loads to design all of these graphics for you. But just taking a selfie and posting it on your Instagram and saying, "Hi, I'm venue owner, and this is my story." People are going to connect with that.
Yeah. What if, again, though, people are like, "Oh, well, I like," maybe they say like, "I have a face for radio," like the old saying, or like they don't really feel comfortable in front of the camera. They don't feel like they want to like get out there and do it, or they don't have a pretty backdrop or good lighting or any of that. Is that stuff important when trying to create some of this personality behind the brand?
On the note of backdrop and lighting, I think that goes back to my other point of like authenticity sells, and people don't expect you to have a huge studio with a neon sign in the background with your logo on it and all these fancy things. But I mean, if you're super not confident, not everybody is. And we've definitely struggled with this at my family venue, getting the staff to be okay with being in front of the camera, especially when it's not their business. Because if you're not talking about the owners and you're talking about management and saying, "Hey, do you mind being on camera and us shooting some bits today?" Their first reaction is just going to be to get their guard up and say, I'm not really comfortable, because they don't really care about driving their business forward, or most people anyway. And so incentivizing people to do that on your behalf in some sort of way can help. If you have children who are involved in the business and they're happy to be on camera, getting them to do that and saying, even if it was your son and you got them to do a selfie video and say, "Hey guys, my mum's not really confident on camera, so I thought I'd jump on today and tell you a little bit about our venue." It's so much more authentic than just posting top tips of how to style your wedding venue. It's boring, it's old content, and not many people engage with that anymore.
I love that. Thank you for saying that about the employee side, because I think that's tricky, and I think a lot of people do struggle with that. It might be like, "Hey, we were looking for my daughter's wedding, we couldn't find anything, so we ended up building it." But that guy who did that, or that gal, may not want to take that video, selfie style, on their Instagram. So yeah, incentivizing your team, getting your team, but then also the team sometimes is not fully comfortable with that. So that is absolutely a hurdle. It's something that we've come into contact with as well. And I think still kind of like sharing that story. Like, I'm really glad that you mentioned that. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. We talked meta ads and we talked branding and we talked kind of like creating this brand awareness. It almost sounded like we shouldn't be thinking about the newsletter or any one of these marketing tools like a silver bullet. Like, one thing is not just going to fix it. We got to do 6 or 8 things. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And this is huge for, again, what I was saying about being a growth partner more than just a marketing agency, because anybody can come in and run your ads for you, but who's really going to understand what's not working? And also who's going to have the confidence to tell you guys, like, look, this is probably not on brand enough, or you probably need to get this revised because this is going to be hurting your performance. And I think this is a reason why my family venue has scaled so much, because I've been so OCD about every single tiny bit of our funnel. And that's from making sure our directories are updated once a month, if not once every 2 weeks, with new imagery, new copy, storytelling concepts, all the way down to on-site. So when people are going to the toilet on your site, how are you funneling people who are sitting on the toilet doing nothing into some sort of deal with you guys? So if you are offering baby showers at your venue, or you're offering christenings or Christmas parties, then having flyers in the toilets, or branding around the site so that people can make touch points. It's really an all-in-one, and you can't just run ads. And this is why we're quite picky with venues that we do work with, because if they don't have the foundations in place and they're not willing to pay to get them in place, then there's only so much we can do with ads. So what I always say is, when you're running meta campaigns, for example, there's 2 places that people can click, and there's 3 things that people can do. They either click on the ad itself, which takes you to hopefully a conversion focused landing page, and that they can take action. They click on your profile, which hopefully takes you to an aesthetic looking updated profile with a lot of storytelling and personality behind it, or they scroll past. And that's the 3rd thing that they can do. That's the latter that we want them to take. The best case scenario is that they go to the landing page. But if they go to your social profile and they're having a scroll through, the last thing that you want is to have a post back in 2019, which is super bad quality, and straight away you've lost that lead. So it's about encompassing everything. You can't just run ads to a dead profile.
I'm curious, are there venues, like, what is the circumstance where you would say, no, we're not going to work with you, to a venue? You need to focus on something else. Like, give me some of those scenarios, because, and I want to give you a little context. If I'm listening to this right now, I'm considering maybe working with a growth partner, someone who is going to run ads, or maybe I'm not getting any leads or very few leads, and I'm like, let's just do meta ads. It's going to drive more business. What are kind of maybe some checks that you would put in place before just jumping into that to drive more business?
Sure. I think initially, to answer your question, there's no set type of venue that we won't work with, because we have different packages. We've got a venue in a box package, for example, where venues can come to us with a field in their back garden, and we will establish everything for them, from branding to brochure to website, ensuring everything's in place before we even start to think about ads. But then obviously you have the venues much further along who have all of that in place. They might even have a marketing team in place. And at that point, we can just come in and plug in our systems, plug in the lead generation funnels, and they can just handle everything else. So there's a big variety. And I've never wanted to be one to say like, hey guys, you don't have a good brochure, I'm not going to work with you. It's, for me, more just open to communication and wanting to work together. So it can't be, I don't like the whole idea of client and venue, or venue and agency. I more want it to be a business partnership where I'm coming to you and saying, guys, why is there 5 unread messages in your inbox from three days ago? And almost being quite harsh on that side of things, because if I'm generating the leads for you, then I need to know that they're being converted in some sort of way. And I don't want the awkward conversation at the end of the month to go, why have we got no bookings? And I look in your inbox and I can see because none of the leads have been responded to. So yeah, a few things to unpick there. Firstly, we do work with complete startups, fields in back gardens who are looking to establish themselves. But secondly, in terms of a checklist and what you should expect before you start running ads, I think most importantly is a good brochure. But before that, you need good offers. And what I mean by that is thinking about what you're offering to these couples in that package. Is it comprehensive? Does it include all the basics, or is there a bunch of upsells? The minute there's a bunch of upsells off the offset before they've even booked with you guys, you're going to be turning away people. And then the step before that is licenses.
Well, you said upsells before. So are you an upsell before, meaning you're trying to, well, I guess let me make sure I'm hearing you correctly. So you're saying the best way to do it in terms of pricing would be to kind of get them in at an introductory rate, maybe just the space, and then later on in a further consult, have them buy a photo booth package or the lighting or different upgrades. Is that kind of what you're saying?
So I'm definitely suggesting comprehensive packages. So having something that includes everything that they might need for their big day and that they won't need to add anything else on after that. if they just want that. So what's going to really turn couples away is if you start saying, hey guys, here's our comprehensive package. But if you want to stay past 10 p.m. at night, then you're going to have to pay an extra $500. And then if you want to stay past 12, then you're going to have to spend this amount of money. And then people are just going to go, this is racking up and it doesn't make any sense before they've even booked with you guys. So having a package that includes everything that they'll potentially need. But then, of course, we're all businesses. And on the back end, once they're booked, you can have different upsells, which sound enticing and are also different to competition. So in the UK, things like having a cocktail bar or a gin bar, the late bar license is a very good one because a lot of our venues, we are only licensed a certain amount of times per year to go onto a certain time. So having to pay for that, limited use, is a good thing. I also mentioned twilight packages, and so keeping them very comprehensive and inclusive because people, again, are going for these because they are more affordable. And so then having a bunch of upsells wouldn't make any sense because then all of a sudden it becomes not affordable, right?
That makes total sense. That's awesome, man. Thank you. We could obviously talk for so long just about marketing, branding. You're obviously a wealth of information on this side. When you think about the future of your company and the venue, what's next for you guys? Like, how are you building? Are you going to, run your family venue and kind of do that? Are you building a bigger marketing agency, kind of like or a growth partner agency? What's next for you?
Sure. It's a good question. There's so many different directions that we can take at the moment. And we're really just at that point where it's like, damn, like, which way do we go? For me personally, the family venue is at my heart and I'm never, ever going to give that up in exchange for the online agency. I also get a thrill out of helping venue owners and seeing real value out of that. I love seeing good results, and actually being able to build good connections. Part of what makes this so enjoyable for me is because we can actually have a really good relationship with the venues that we work with. And as I say, I never like the whole venue agency partnership. I like it to be a good relationship where we're communicating well. Long term for me, it's building a collection of venues. And I see this as the perfect opportunity to funnel into that, to be able to learn all of the different pain points that venues are struggling with and almost just copy and paste everything that I've learned into my collection of venues going forward.
I love that. That's awesome. Kai, thank you so much for coming on the Venue RX. If you're watching this or listening to this and you want to check out what Kai is doing, you can find him at theweddingmarketers.com. We're also going to have the links to all that in the description below. So I encourage everyone to check out that. And Kai, is that the best place to check you guys out? Where else could we go?
Sure. Theweddingmarketers.com is our site. If you want to check out our Instagram and see a little bit more about me, as I was saying about the personality side of things, then you can check out our Instagram at The Wedding Marketers. And if you want to check out my family venue and what we're up to down in Kent in the UK, then it's at the BarnYard Kent or the-barnyard.com.
Amazing. And if you want to check out Kai's funnels, just submit an inquiry and you'll have to check it out. Awesome. Kai, thank you so much for coming on today. This was really fun. Good chat. And I'm excited for how you guys are growing.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
Hey there, pardon the interruption. I wanted to share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it's a brand new association just for venue owners and operators that we launched last year. It's been growing quickly since then, and we would love to offer an invitation to you to be a part of it. WEVA is an association that is purpose-built for venue owners and operators to provide community, education, and networking opportunities just for our industry. We have a number of different resources, including networking, co-working events, local meetups, and all sorts of different things. We will be having a large yearly event as well. We would love to have you part of the community, so please consider joining. We do have a link in the description below, or we will be linking it wherever you're listening to this. So please click on the link, check it out, and we would love to see you inside of WEVA.